Today, we are recording in the Fernwood tasting room, so thank you very much to Fernwood Coffee for opening up their space to us. Once again, sitting down with our friend Tristan, the barista trainer extraordinaire, who's going to be walking us through latte art. So picture those beautiful little designs you get on your coffee. Where do they come from? How do you make them? And what goes into the process? How are people getting art on the top of their coffee? Is it free poured? Are they drawing on it? Is there a difference?
There's a couple ways to make latte art. One, like you said, is free pour. So you're just pouring. It's pouring, and the technique you use of wiggling your hand around to create pictures on the coffee. Another technique is what we might call etching, where you pour milk in, you'll make shapes, but then you'll continue creating those shapes with tools.
Like a toothpick or something like that?
Toothpick, a spoon, you can use whatever you want to manipulate that foam, if that's the style of latte art that you make.
Now, what if you're familiar with like Instagram famous Japanese latte artists who do like 3D foam things? Are we getting that far, or maybe that's an advanced lesson?
That is something I don't know how to do. I've played around with that before, but yeah. I'm very much a free pour only latte art barista, so I just stick to some basic techniques.
Now, you mentioned that it's just adding milk into coffee. That seems pretty straightforward, or is there a special technique involved?
And that's what makes the latte art itself, is really how you pour it into the coffee, because it has the ability to float on the surface and make shapes with the foam.
Do you have to prepare the milk differently, or can you use cold milk? Is there anything to that?
Well, key to making latte art is creating a texture and amount of foam in your milk, which facilitates it happening. If you have a huge amount of foam with big bubbles, it floats quickly and it doesn't pour in the same way at all. And if you don't have any foam at all, it's just hot milk, it will not create any designs at all.
So you're looking for a very specific texture?
Yes.
That's exciting. Well, maybe you can give us a little example as a baseline, and then you can tell us about milk.
All right, I'm gonna get this milk steaming, and it's all gonna come together pretty quickly. Make sure I've got lots of pressure. Yes. Great. So, like I mentioned, I need to have the right texture of milk to create latte art. What I've got here is smooth foam, not a huge thickness of foam, and it'll give me the pliancy I need to float some designs on the surface of this coffee. So I'll start off by doing something more simple. You've seen all the time is just like a heart. You just make these little blobs, and they move and bend as you fill the cup and force them to shape around from the flow of milk. A heart's kind of where it all begins. When you start making latte art, first you make a circle, then you make a heart, and then you have to decide where to go from there.
So if we're talking about basic shapes, you mentioned the heart. Is there sort of another classic that baristas who are free pouring can do?
Absolutely. I'd say heart and tulip go together as one part of the basic pours, and then rosetta, and I guess you could say swan as well. Ooh. Form like the basic designs that people work with now. Okay, come on, bud. There we go. Okay. So that's me adding the air that I want. And now I'm just gonna warm it up and keep refining that texture as it heats. There we go, nice and smooth and shiny. That's what we want. So that's an example of a rosetta. And basically with the techniques used for those two pours, you can make a wide variety of coffee designs.
We've got the heart and the rosetta. That seems pretty straightforward.
It is pretty straightforward. There's two different techniques used here, or well, 3 or 4 really techniques used to make these two. But with these two techniques, you can make a pretty good diverse amount of designs now.
Very cool. Now, I'm gonna be honest. You make this look really easy. Do you mind if we maybe switch it up a bit and have you teach one of our camera people who's never steamed milk before so that the audience can see what sort of learning progression looks like?
It does take quite a bit of practice, though the steps are simple.
Right.
Well, there's a few simple rules to learn when you're steaming milk. We'll cover them quickly and then get to it. Basically, steam wands, you're going to want to be purging steam out before and after you steam the milk. I've got an empty jug here, but I'm going to talk through the process really quickly. When you begin, you're going to put the tip of the steam wand below the surface of the milk. We're just going to flick it on to full blast. Then you're going to lower this pitcher a tiny bit. We'll get the sounds of air being pulled down into the milk. Once you get a little bit of that, you get the amount of foam that you would like for that drink. You just raise it up a tiny bit again, and then there'll be no more air going in, and you're just looking to create this vortex where it's spinning, pulling bubbles down to the bottom, where they get kind of broken down smaller and smaller. There's two steps. You add the air, and then you refine that texture while it's heating.
Okay.
And ideally, we're just going to move down a tiny bit, up a tiny bit, and not really do anything else.
Okay, I have the movement down.
Are you ready to steam?
I'll try.
Just have a little extra.
And me touching this with my hands won't be a problem.
It will get very hot. I would hold the side, and then you can check temperature as it heats with the other hand, and you won't be stuck with it. I do hold it like this, but I also then I let go like that. But it's easier just to.
And do I want it to be like uncomfortable to touch, or like I cannot
Yes.
touch it?
Get it to the point where you definitely don't want to touch it anymore. At that point, it'll still be a little bit cool to drink, but it's heating up very, very rapidly. So right after that, you'll stop.
Okay.
Yep, full blast.
Full blast.
Lower it down a little bit. Little areas adding air, a little more air maybe, tiny bit. Now raise it up because there's some warmth. And then once it's too hot, you turn it off. That went really well.
All right, good. I learned a new skill.
That was the
tap.
Yep, you can break some of the large bubbles on the surface by tapping it and swirling it. It kind of teases out the other ones that are in there.
Well, that looks pretty nice and even.
That is a very impressive first try.
There we go.
I'm actually shocked. This is surprisingly good for your first try. Holy moly. We've got like a natural here.
It is very good. It's quite uncommon to have the first try that decent. Here you go. There's your espresso.
So unlike Tristan, I recommend you pour it onto a surface as opposed to floating there.
You basically want to start with a slow, thin stream of milk that increases in volume as you fill the cup. You're going to get closer to the surface. Basically, you're pretty much going to touch the surface in the center of the cup once it's 2/3 full, or as close as you can. Yeah, lots of movement. There you are, thin your stream. Now get closer and pour a bit faster. Closer and faster, really close. In the middle, get really close. And there we go.
I mean, it's not really making a shape, but...
No. Whoa.
I got too wrapped up in the action. I got too excited.
That's all right. It
Who
happens.
wants a coffee?
Pouring latte art, like we said, is a pouring technique, and there's a lot of subtle parts of the technique to learn. It does take a lot of practice even to get the control it takes to create contrast. Even if you're going to make a circle or a heart, you do want contrast. You need to control the space. It does take quite a few practice runs to get that. Basically, you want your pouring pitcher to pretty much touch the surface of the coffee, almost. So you're going to fill it up carefully first with the thin stream, and then when it's filling up, you get right in there and pour faster and faster.
And that probably is easier to do with less milk in the steam.
It was quite full that time.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. We have the milk there. Gonna get up to temp. Up. And down.
that air in. Raise it up. Now it's hot.
Okay. Up.
Now just give this a quick wipe down because I want to keep this clean.
So I noticed there's some more large bubbles this time. What happened?
More air, perhaps?
This time, there was a little more air going in, but another issue was the air went in late. It's very key to get the air introduction early in the process before the milk is warm.
And into the...
Great. Yeah, now really get in there now and pour.
I made
Aha!
a chain.
Aha!
That's what I'm calling that. And hey, it's all in the cup.
It's an improvement.
Yeah.
Absolute improvement for sure. You saw the foam didn't really come out until much higher in the cup.
Yeah.
And that has a lot to do with the bubble size. Big bubbles float faster, and when you're pouring, they actually float into the back of the pitcher, so they can end up kind of holding back until the top and then kind of all start to fall out at the end.
Yeah.
When you want to make latte art, you want to choose the point at which it actually floats across the surface, so I will angle the cup and pitcher together.
I mean, that's 2 steps of improvement for me, but I think we have someone here who's gone a couple more than 2, maybe the 1,000 steps of improvement to get to that finish line. They've been on a journey. They're behind the camera right now, and I think we should throw to them to see what they can do, even with a couple years distance.
Oh, it's been a while. Yeah, you want to pull the shot for me? I'm getting a little bit of a handicap here. It's harder to steam in a smaller pitcher, so they put me back. It's like the training wheels are back on. All right, muscle memory, don't fail me now. This is a lot like riding a bike, right? No? Just me? All right, good talk. 3, 2, 1. All right, so first impressions, it's perhaps a little bit thicker than I would have liked it to be, but it's okay. It's like thicker cat milk. All right, here's the other thing. Let's see if I remember this part. So I'm trying to bump out the bubbles. It's a way to sort of cheat and try and hide some of my mistakes here. All right, let's go this way. That's when you go just over the edge of the cup. That's a little kiss lip there. All right, so maybe not as clean as your tulip, but considering I haven't touched an espresso machine in probably 2 to 4 years, it looks like at one point I knew what I was doing.
Absolutely.
So things that I would want to clean up. When you looked at Tristan's latte art, you'd see there was a very clean contrast between the brown and the white. That line is very indicative of very good control. You can see in my latte art here that the whites and the browns bleed into each other. I'm pleased with the centering. It's centered in the cup both this way and this way, so that shows a little bit of control, but the contrast is where it's missing. I don't know if you're that much further ahead to me. What do you think? Good old-fashioned latte art throwdown, a quick little head-to-head. You know, me, the retired barista versus you, the barista trainer. Yeah.
Let's do a throwdown.
All right. I think I'll take the advantage here. I'll go second.
Okay.
In the latte art contest, it's typically important that both competitors agree on which design to do. I told Tristan I get to go second, so I guess he gets the advantage on telling us which pattern we're going for. Tristan, which pattern are we pouring?
Well, you know, you started off with the beginnings of a good tulip there, so let's stick with that and do tulips.
Tulip competition it is. Let's go.
Okay. Visualize what I'm gonna do first.
Picture the tulip.
So I'll control that space a little bit, then I'll start. And I'm just gonna really push into that first chunk and then build up and away from that. There we go, just a nicely stepped and shaped tulip.
How many steps do we have there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 step tulip. All right.
A nice little border on the bottom, so
Yeah.
I'm happy with that.
Piece of cake. I got this. All right, feeling much better about that milk than the first one.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so massive difference. You can see that it's not as thick. You can see there's less bubbles, so feeling confident about that. All right, Serge, you got this. Part of the cards. Oh, my milk is thin. All right. Be aggressive, Serge. Be aggressive.
All right.
So, I know what a lot you were thinking. It's close. It's very close. You can't really even see Tristan's compared to mine. The glory just outshines it there. Still nowhere near the control. I got 3 steps in my tulip. Tristan had 9. Tristan's got a very nice clean contrast around the bottom. Mine is up against the cup. I think I have to unfortunately concede defeat to you here. I'm shocked, honestly. I thought I had a pretty good chance here. But so that goes. Good latte art doesn't necessarily guarantee good coffee, but bad coffee probably won't ever have latte art.
Yeah, I would say that's mainly true.
All right, kind of a neat little way to showcase the overall skill level of a place you're going to, but not necessarily a guarantee of quality.
I would see it as like an artful plating at a restaurant that takes itself seriously. The presentation means a lot. When someone sees a coffee like this, you know, they immediately believe it's going to taste good. It makes a big difference, I think, in the perception of our professionalism.
Oh, absolutely. You often talk about how much visualization and presentation affects taste. So it can just make you feel better. When you look at this, you're like, whoa. It already gives you that anticipation, like, oh, this is going to be good.
Yeah.
Well, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time and your expertise. Really appreciate you opening up the location for us and showing us the magical world that is coffee.
Yeah, it was great. I hope it gets some interest going. People are watching.
So Matt, do you think you're ready to stop being a video editor and maybe take up the mantle as a professional barista?
As long as your training doesn't make me overflow with skill and coffee,
like
I did before.
That 1 cup of coffee?
Yeah.
Well, maybe. Well, hopefully you enjoyed watching this episode and learning a lot of what goes into being a barista, as well as a little bit of the magic behind what goes into your cup of coffee. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.